Hello, my beautiful ladies. Patty Lou here with Shine Your Light. Today is going to be a very interesting podcast because today is the first time that Spirit has asked me to speak quite freely. The other podcasts we've done before, I've been reading mainly channeled messages. I've been putting in a little bit of my own 2 cents, but mainly it's what Spirit has channeled through me. So today I wanted to go a little bit deep because I'm hoping that we're going to be able to help women or girls that are finding themselves in a painful situation right now, or maybe hopefully you might be coming out of it. But I think all of us as women have been in quite a bit of pain throughout our lives periodically. And I'm here to share a bit of my story to try to give you some hope, maybe some direction, and some actual steps to help you hopefully lessen your pain, to ultimately put that pain behind you. And a lot of my story starts with me learning how to speak to spirit. So I'd like to share that with you. I know that I've shared a little bit of my story during the first few podcasts, but I'm going to go back and talk about it a little bit more in more depth to try to connect with you as openly as I can. I want to be as forthcoming and as vulnerable with you in hopes that we can really connect heart to heart, soul to soul, because that's the whole point of this platform. And it will be challenging for me because I've never done this before to this depth. But I'm actually really excited because I feel that as women, we all go through pain, but it is very similar. And even though each story is very unique and it has its own flavor, I know that every time I meet a woman, it doesn't matter where she's from, any part of the world, I can connect with her very quickly because we all go through similar things as women. So I'm going to start, first of all, by going back kind of to the beginning of when my spiritual awakening happened. Because a lot of us, I think, that will be drawn to this podcast are probably on a fairly new spiritual journey. And for me, I was in insurance for 30 years. So it was very corporate. I was very high in my masculine energy. I was very sergeant major. I was very black and white. And so when one of my friends at the time had suggested to me, maybe I should start meditating. I don't really know why she was ever called to say that to me, but I'm sure it was spirit guiding her. I was very judgmental. I was very blunt. And I remember saying something like, if you do that, that's okay. But I'm not going to be part of your cult. So if you want to go meditate, that's fine. But I'm not interested. And I'm not really sure why. But a short time later, again, I'm sure spirit was guiding me. I did start meditating and I very quickly became addicted to it, which was really interesting. It was kind of like a drug to me, to be honest, because me being type A and being a business owner, my whole life, for as long as I can remember, my adult life, anyways, my mind was always constantly running, and I could never find a way to turn it off. And so when I started doing guided meditations, just magically my brain shut off. And I was so addicted to that feeling. I was just in love with that peaceful space because I had never, ever in my whole life, I don't think I've never experienced that. And so For people who haven't meditated before, I just want to add in a little bit more here because a lot of people really struggle with meditation. All I did was pick any type of guided meditation. And I used to listen to Bob Proctor and different people like that. And a lot of times I'd put in for abundance, but you could pick whatever topic you feel called to. And I would put in my headset and I would just simply listen to it. But usually, a lot of them that I was listening to at the time were only 20 or 30 minutes long. And I felt that that wasn't deep enough for me. So I kept replaying it over and over and over. And especially on a Saturday or a Sunday, when I would first wake up, I would sometimes spend hours doing it. My kids would say, "Hey, mom, are you coming out of your room?" And I said, "In a little bit, but not right now." I was just so in love with that new space that I found. So I think it might be helpful for people if you're really trying to find some light, to find some hope. If you're really feeling a lot of pain right now, a lot of sadness, a lot of darkness, probably the easiest way I would say for you to try to help yourself is to start meditating. And even if you just start for 30 minutes, I suggest lots of times to meditate in the morning first when you wake up. And also, you could do it when you're going to bed. And even if you fall asleep with your headphones in, that's totally fine. They say that subconsciously you pick it up. So, as I started meditating, I magically began to get this clarity. And I felt this really deep connection with God, but also with spirit. And it's been really interesting for me because I've always talked to God my whole life, ever since I was a child. And I was raised going to church. We would go to the Salvation Army Church. A lot of people don't realize that that's a religion, but where I grew up in a little small town, there was a church there. And Salvation Army is really known for all of their charity work that they do. But my mom and dad had a picture of Jesus hung over my bed. And I grew up, of course, seeing this my whole life. And I've just always been really connected to God. So I used to joke and say I talk to God probably more so than the average minister would. But it went deeper for me. Um, Suddenly, right at the beginning, actually, of my meditation, um, this portal opened up when I was in my bedroom and Jesus appeared, but it was this fascinating space full of light. I didn't see his face, but his hand and his arm was coming toward me. And I just knew it was Jesus. And I've heard other people on different podcasts that have had near death experiences, just as an example, describing this amount of light because it's very hard to verbalize and put into words because there is nothing like it that I've ever seen in my whole life. I joke and say it's much greater than anything Disney even ever came up with. But it was so magical and so beautiful and so pure. And I wish at the time I would have had sense enough to really be thankful for the moment. But to be honest, it shocked me so deeply that I came out of my meditation really quickly, and it had affected me to the point where I was actually, I would say, sobbing. And I phoned my minister friend and shared with him what had happened. And he's quite a jovial guy. And so he burst out laughing in his big, beautiful laughter and said, I knew this was coming for you. And I said, you need to just calm down because this is a very confusing, shocking state I'm in right now, and I need some guidance here. So after I took a breath and kind of moved through that space, I had a lot of magical things happening to me. And to be honest, they happen now on so often and on such a regular basis. It's just part of my life now. But first, when they happened, I was quite surprised. And to be honest, if I never experienced it and someone was sharing that story with me, I would find it very, very, very hard to believe. And so the reason why I'm sharing this with you is as you go deeper into that meditative state, magic and miracles literally will start to happen around you every day. And when you start connecting with spirit, you will feel them flowing through you and you will feel your soul starting to awaken, which is probably maybe and hopefully it's already happened for you. And maybe that's why you're being drawn to this space with all of us now that are experiencing similar things. It's a very beautiful pathway of light, is how I would describe it. And I was a very happy person before. I've always been very happy, very optimistic, very bubbly, very positive. But this brings you a deeper joy, a deeper level of happiness, even when you're just sitting by yourself. And people will just see your light even more so than they ever did before. And it's such a beautiful thing because we all have this within us. But if you can't tap into it, or you don't know how, or you can't find that, your life probably won't reach the level of potential happiness and joy that I'm hoping that you will reach. And I know that when you're listening to different people on a lot of different podcasts now, they talk about humanity in general, that the level of consciousness is rising. And I think that's what's happening. I think we're all being called now as light workers. And so when that happens, and you didn't come from a spiritual space like myself, you're questioning everything. It's like, well, what even is a light worker? What even is this spiritual awakening that I'm having? So I had a variety of things happen, but in particular, I went to a conference and it was a conference where I wasn't speaking. One of my friends was um, holding it. So she invited me to go. So I bought a ticket and I went out there on a Saturday. And the room is full of women. It's a few hundred women. And there's a little teeny weeny window, kind of high up, but in the middle of a big concrete wall. It's more like a gymnasium type of a feel, the room was. And this light started shining in. And I was kind of in the middle of the room, I would say. But I felt like the light was really shining in on me. And I said, Spirit, for God's sakes, I'm not speaking today. Can you please just let me be one of the people in the room? And whoever else is speaking, let the light be on them today. And so I was sharing this with one of my friends after the conference. And she said, Do you know what's happening to you? And I said, No. And she said, With all of the little things that are happening to you and all of the magic and miracles and this connection you're having with light, she said, You're actually having a spiritual awakening. And so it was the very next day then that I actually had my vision of Jesus come to me. So it's interesting for me now because at the time it was very difficult to connect the dots. And to be honest, I didn't have a clue what was going on. And so she comes from quite an extensive spiritual background. I do not. I went to church and Sunday school, and that was it. And so when you step into this spiritual space, it just opens up a whole new world for you. And in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing other than the guided meditations. But I would say that the guided meditations are a very beautiful place to start. And I'd like to share with you specifically how I started to connect with spirit and what I do now on a daily basis to really create a sacred space for myself and for spirit really to come in. And again, I didn't understand all of this in the beginning. So I'm hoping that this will add some value to you. And really, if it becomes part of your daily practice, I think that it could add a lot of value to your life. So the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, I spend a lot of time now just, doing spiritual stuff. But the first thing that I do when I get up, one of the first things I do when I'm ready to start my spiritual time, I will light a candle. I actually have a couple that I light. They vary, but I have a triple wick and I light that. And as I'm lighting it, I light each wick and I say, for the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And I invite in all of those as I light the candle. I have another candle that says love on it. So then I light that candle and I just really start putting lots of intention in. So I'd love to spread love to all of those around me. Sometimes I'll go and spread it out globally. And I find it really interesting. But as a woman, I'm trying to also give love to myself. And that's what I really wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to try to draw the energy in when I'm explaining it to you, as opposed to going global, because I go global lots and I do that quickly. But Spirit really wanted me today to share with you about how to really love yourself. Because when you're in those dark moments, it's very difficult and the pain is usually at its max and you don't know where to turn and what can you even do. And a lot of times, from my experience, sometimes we're not lucky enough to have someone to share that with. And even though we might have friends around us, we might not be comfortable with sharing that. And sometimes the pain lingers on and is just so deep that I don't know how you all feel, but I feel that I didn't want to open my heart and that pain every day to be phoning someone to be sharing that. I thought I really had to move through that pain myself somehow. And so I was relying on my connection with spirit greatly to get me through it. And thankfully, they did. It's taken a long time, probably into a good 3 or 4 years now of pain that I've had. Mine was caused from a divorce, but I know we all have our stories, and pain is pain, unfortunately. And it's very difficult to walk through those dark days. So I'm hoping that by sharing how I connect with spirit, you'll be able to do either the same steps that I'm doing, or you might take that and mix it in with your own steps. And spirit will guide you if you ask them. But I want to be able to offer you some light and offer you some hope and offer you a pathway out and up because we don't want to be staying in that painful state. It's important, I think, to feel it and it's important to process it. And I always ask Spirit if they could please help me to learn the lesson so I don't have to repeat it. And then we can really move on to our life purpose, which is really what I think a lot of us are feeling right now. Is that really why are we here? And what are we really meant to do? And who are we really meant to serve? And I think a lot of us are being drawn together right now because we're all wanting to live the best life that we can for the amount of time that we have left. So after my candles are lit, then I will light a sage stick. And I don't know how familiar you ladies are with it because I wasn't at all. But you can buy sage itself and it's kind of in a bunch, like maybe around this thick a lot of times when I see it, and maybe about this long. So I have burned sage lots, and there's different things that you can burn to clear your energy. But sometimes I will burn incense sticks. And lately, that's my go to. And when I go to a spiritual store, I actually fell in love with they come in a little box. Well, it's about maybe this long and about this big around. And they'll have a word on the side of them. So one of the boxes that I fell in love with said love on the side. And there's a little saying on the side of the box. So when you learn it, you can call in love. Another one, they were meant specifically for archangels. And so I'm very connected to archangels. I'm really in love with that space. But whatever you feel is on your heart, even if you just burn a normal incense stick, because they come sometimes when they're not marked, I'll ask spirit to really help me set the intention for love. Sometimes I set it for healing, sometimes I set it for energy. You do whatever is on your heart to do. Sometimes you just want your heart to be healed. Sometimes you just want the pain to stop. You whatever your heart is calling you to do. That's you'll probably feel it bubbling up as you light it. And so then I will turn on YouTube, and I have a fairly large TV in the room where I sit. And I don't know why, but since I've been open energetically, if I put it on my phone, as opposed to if I put it on the TV, I feel the energy more so when I put it on the TV. I think just because it's a bigger screen. So I will search things like spiritual healing videos, just as an example. Or another energy friend of mine, she does energy healing. She said it's very helpful if you turn on a stream, like a running stream, and that flowing of the water on the video will actually help to clear your space. I also have a very big connection with the ocean, and I also have a very, very big connection with Hawaii because I was in Hawaii when I first started my automatic writing, which again, at that time, I didn't know what it was. But I find if I put on anything Hawaii or anything ocean based, um, all of those are very spiritual for me. And the other one I really like, if you haven't heard of it and it's really worth looking into, it's called Divine White Light Reiki. And there are a lot of videos there to choose from. A lot of mine I turn on have to do with calling in miracles. And so you could probably feel already that if you start your day by doing this, and you could do it for a very short time or you could do it for a very long time, um, already you're calling in that beautiful connection to spirit, to God. For me, I'm a big God girl. Um, Daily, I'm calling in my angels, spirits, and guides, and I can feel them. And they lead me and they guide me. And I always call in angels of light. I often call in Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel, but there are lots of archangels that you can do a little bit of research and whoever you align with. You call in whoever speaks to your heart. But I just wanted to kind of guide you on how to get started into that space. And I was watching a video one day on YouTube, and this lady, she's a spiritual healer as well. She was saying that when you start creating this environment in your home, this sacred space, you actually can create a vortex of energy. And of course, I didn't know that at the time. But after she said it, it really resonated with me because usually I do this in the same room in my house, although I do have a couple of rooms, but mainly it's the one room. And so when you walk in there, you can just feel the energy is so beautiful. And I would encourage you to do this daily if you can. But the more often you do it, probably the more connected you will feel to spirit. And then as time goes on, maybe once a week, I will clear the house. So I walk around with an incense stick burning, but you have to have something in under it. So when the ashes are dropping, they go into a glass dish or something of that nature or foil. And then I will ask spirit to help clear the house. And so I ask, can you please clear the house of any negative energy? Um, Only bring in the most positive of all words that you can, that will be of our highest good. And so when you tap into positive words, positive energy, positive channels, positive prayers as well, you can really feel the energy in your house changing. And when I do that, I also turn on a fan, or if it's warm weather, I'll open a window. They say to ask spirit to let any negative energy or anything that doesn't serve you to be please released out through either the fan ducts or out through your window that's opened. And the other big thing that I will do when I'm going for clearing is I will look up on YouTube. There are many, many prayers that you can Google or look on YouTube, depending on what you're wanting to do. And the prayers, just as an example, could be for cleansing your house or cleansing your office space, for increasing abundance in your business, for increasing your energy, for creating a loving, healthy environment. There are many, many things that you can do. So I just want to open your mind right now, today, to the possibility of what is, because I remember in the beginning, I didn't know there was really anything possible, to be honest. I looked at everything very black and very white, and there was no gray with me. So I find that now this world is much more magical when you tap into all of the possibilities. And the biggest thing that I want to share with you is that you'll be so surprised, I think, because all of this is really within you. And of course, people say that. It used to aggravate me, but you have to know how to tap into it, because even for me, right? I do automatic writing, and I have spirit channeling through me. And so some people will say, well, anyone can do it. Well, I'm sure they can. But the problem is you need to be guided on the first step and on the second step and on the third step. Because if you have no idea where even to start, if you don't even have any idea how to get the first building block, how could you possibly build this beautiful spiritual foundation that you're trying to build, right? You would never know. And so, back in the beginning of my spiritual journey, I think it was around 2019 when I had my vision. And ever since then, I've had different people who are very spiritual brought into my life. And so I've picked up a lot of things from them. And then thankfully, spirit guides me, which I'm sure they will do to you when you are open and if you ask. And even for me, when I start off journaling, and just as an example, you could even start off with a gratitude list and say, I'm grateful for. And I say anything from my health to my eyesight, to our food that we eat every day, to breathing, to waking up. I've had very bad energy issues in my life, which I'm sure was tied to emotional things. But it was to the point where I could barely get out of bed. So now I'm just thrilled that I can jump out of bed. I can brush my teeth. I can do hair and makeup without getting wiped out. So I think it's really important to be thankful for even the smallest of things, because some poor people are not even mobile. And to get out of bed is something that they can't even do. And so I think when you start being grateful for everything that we do have, it just expands the light. Because if you concentrate on what you don't have, then you're just going to expand the darkness. And that's not what you want to do. And I know it's really, really hard. So I remember way back when I was kind of in the pits of hell, I heard someone say on YouTube, if you're really upset with someone, just as an example, or upset about something, you could get a piece of paper and you could just start writing. And I don't swear very often. And actually, my kids make fun of me because when I do uh, go to say something, I'll usually say Holy Christmas card. And my kids will say, Mom, you do realize that you're 53, you are allowed to swear. But I don't love swearing. So I tend to not swear very often. But when I started writing out on this piece of paper, actually, I had about 10 pieces of paper that I filled out, but I ended up saying F this and F that. And it went on and on and on. And I was so shocked because I didn't even realize that pain and anger was even in me. And oddly enough, on the paper, I didn't even write out the swear word, the F swear word. I just wrote out F. And then I wrote out this and that, and whatever. And I wrote out literally 10 pages of what I was mad about, who I was mad at, what I was mad at. And the thing is, what I've come to learn now, which I didn't know at the time, I think because I had locked all of that emotional pain inside of me. And to be honest, I wasn't aware that it was even sitting way down deep inside of my soul. But when I started to unleash, really, is what I did, I was actually quite shocked, to be honest, that I even had that amount of anger in me. And I think the problem is, as women, is that we do a lot of times push it down. And it's not good to push it down because then it just sits and it festers. And for me, it festered into very, very, very poor health. And I literally was, so low in energy. It was less than my mother, who's in her 80s. And I knew that I had to somehow pull myself up out of the pits of hell, but it's not easy to do when you're there. And so that's why I really want to share with you now that I understand to some degree, anyways. I don't know the depths of your pain, but I can tell you what, my world blew up, fell apart, blew into a million pieces, and never dreamt in a million years that it would happen. My parents have been married for over 60 something years. They've had 3 weddings to renew their vows. They love each other immensely. They've been great role models. And so I'm the first person in my family to go through a divorce. And very naively, I didn't even realize with all of these people around me getting divorces, I never ever grasped the depth of pain that comes with that. And there's a lot of pain that came from me, for my ex, for the kids, honestly, even for the dog, for the neighbors, for the friends. The list goes on and on. I just was so shocked at how much pain it caused for a lot of people. And thankfully, now I'm coming out the other side. But honestly, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. It was really, 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 really painful. So I think as women, I just want to be able to let you know that I think we're on very similar journeys. We're probably on very similar pages because very few of us will get to 50 something, even 30 something, without having a few scars along the way. And sometimes you just can't stop the story from playing out, right? And part of that story for a lot of us is going through the painful pits of hell. And we have to be really strong as women. And as women, a lot of times we're the only ones there, to pick up the pieces of ourselves and our own hearts. Because I know for me, I didn't have anyone else there at the time, unfortunately, that I could really lean on. And so that's why I feel it's so important for us now, this day and age. We're so lucky to have these platforms that we have to just really help us all to connect, but not just to connect on a surface level. I really want us to connect deeply because Shine Your Light is really about me pouring my heart into your heart, my soul into your soul. And my wish is that you will really, really feel that love pouring into you. And when there's no love coming from anywhere else, I want you to be able to feel it coming from me. And God is pouring that love through me to come directly into you. And then you're going to be able to say one day, okay, now I can put one step forward. And then you're going to do the same thing to help out one of your sisters one day. Maybe it'll be a neighbor or a sister or your daughter, another lady in your community. You don't know whose life you're going to change. And I'm sure you've already changed many, many, many lives. And I'm sure you're unaware of most of them. But the thing is, we have so much power within us and we don't even realize it. And it's easier, for us now that are in our 50s because I'm seeing young girls now in their 20s that are very unsure of themselves. They're really being affected by things that they see on social media or things even that they see in the community now. But I think it's really important as women, regardless of your age, to just really be able to step up and say, you know what? I've gone through all of this pain. And maybe by sharing a bit of my story, I might be able to help the next person to avoid it altogether or to lessen it or to at least give them some choices. Because I know for myself, I was only 20 something when I was living in a major city, without my mom. And back then, we didn't talk about things like they do now. And so, really, you're on your own in this big world. Lots of things happen, and some of them are negative, unfortunately. Some of them are beautiful, and we can share those stories too. But right now, I'm feeling called to really speak to the women that are in pain because I feel right now that the majority of the world is in pain right now. And I think the biggest part of that is we are not recognizing how beautiful we are inside and outside. We don't need to change. I know that society and some of the platforms try to make us feel like we should change, but we don't have to. You're beautiful just the way you are. I'm beautiful just the way I am. And yes, it's hard to say, but really and truly we are. Because when you have a beautiful heart and when you're here to serve and when you're here to love and you're here to be kind and have gratitude and to just be full of compassion and to be full of grace, I want us to realize that we all have to do that for ourselves first. We're so quick to give grace to others and compassion and love and tenderness and kindness to others. But I think it's really, 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 really important that we draw that energy in toward ourselves first. And I think it's really important that we start there. That should be the beginning. Because when you fill yourself up, really fill yourself up in that sacred space with no one else but you and God and spirit. And we all have angels guiding us. And when you really tap in and ask them to help you feel like you are your most whole self, when you really pour that love into yourself and you really picture God's light coming all the way through you from your head right down to your toes, when you really tap into that energy, that is when you will feel your cup not only being full, but it will then start overflowing. And then you will have extra love. And then there's no end to it because it automatically keeps renewing itself and replenishing. And that's where I missed out in the beginning, as I'm sure most of us have. We give and we give and we give, and there's no replenishing. So, as a business owner, as a mother, when I was a wife, I had a beautiful puppy, a golden retriever, and you're literally giving to everyone. I used to joke and say, even when I went for a walk every day, I literally did it for the dog. I didn't even prioritize myself above my dog. And then I was running around doing things for my clients who I love dearly, but I literally gave every last drop of my soul to my clients, to my kids, to my puppy. There was very little left over even for my spouse, which is, I'm sure, why it ended in a divorce. And then at the very bottom of that pile was myself. And there comes a time when I literally felt so depleted, so broken. I didn't even know how I was even going to start to manage to put my one foot before the other. I said, "Dear Lord, please just give me time off, space to breathe." I had nothing left to give. And that's a very sad and lonely place to be. And I'm hoping to help other women not to have to go as deep as I did, because it is not a very nice place to be when everything you have given to everyone else. And in the end, there was no one there to help me. And so the only person, honestly, I felt I could turn to was God. And thankfully, He's always there. And thankfully, my spirits and my angels and my guides were able to put the right people in my life to show me how I could start to move forward. And I don't want other women to have to go down that lonely road that I did. And even when I meet people now that are on a spiritual journey, I went to Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreat in April of this year in Texas. And a lot of the people I met, they were from all over the world. And the one common theme that I heard was how lonely people were, because no matter what community they lived in, they found it very lonely now that they're starting down this spiritual path. And of course, a lot of other people around us have not started down that path yet. And so they are very, very judgmental. And I can't blame them for that because I also was very, very, very judgmental in the beginning. So I joke and say now, if you want to roll your eyes when I start talking, it's fine. I totally get it because, the need is there sometimes to roll your eyes because what you start experiencing is so magical. How could you even expect another person to even try to understand, that that's real when they have not experienced it yet? And that's okay because that's where they're at. But I think it's really important for us that have started to awaken. We need to be able to share and to unite and to connect. And I think as that light grows brighter and brighter, we'll be able to help other people then who are here now that need the help and also who are coming after us. And I just really want us to be able to spread that love, but to really spread it, to really feel it, because I have blown up my old life unintentionally. But now that I'm here, I am just so thankful. I am so thankful that God gave me that vision. I wasn't at the time. I was very judgmental. I was like, why in the world would God choose an insurance broker? I was the least likely person that I ever thought God should choose. I was very judgmental against myself. I was judgmental against God. I was judgmental, period, against everything. But now that I've accepted it several years later, I realize that it's not about me. It doesn't matter why God chose me. What matters is that I'm accepting that God is giving me the opportunity to be the face of the person to help women. And my angels and spirits and guides have promised me that when I go on a mic, my ego will be removed and they will channel through me whatever messages that they think are full of light for you. And you know what? That's all that matters because we're all only here for a very short period of time. And I really want my time on earth to count. And if I can impact even one woman, I hope it's thousands and thousands and thousands. That's my wish. And I hope that stretches into millions and millions and millions. That's my wish. Because we are all very, very, very similar. We all have a heart. We all have a soul. We're all trying to do our best. And we can help each other, even just by loving each other, even just by sharing and being kind to one another. Because where can you go this day and age and even hear any words of support? Very few places right now. So I'm here to say that even just by you being drawn to this moment in time means you're on your path. It means you're brave, that you're even looking at where you're being called. It means you're full of courage just to show up. You're actually so brave, even just to still be here, because lots of people can't deal with the pain. But I believe that all of us have warrior energy inside of us, especially as women. We have this tender side of us, this loving side of us. So I'm excited to see where all of this is headed as we really build each other up. And I'm going to share as much as I can with you about my journey and about what spirit channels through me and what I do on a daily basis to really try to find that inner joy. Because thankfully, I'm so thankful that I have come such a long, long way. And right now, I feel so much joy every day. And my life purpose right now is to share that with you. And then my wish is that you will then be able to share it with other people. And that light will just continue all around the world and it will be so beautiful. And the world will elevate as we're in it, and all of our experiences will elevate. All of our relationships will elevate. And it will just be a beautiful, beautiful journey that we're on together. So until the next time, I hope you fall in love with loving yourself.